the Flying Fortress has been destroyed, leaving one fewer B-17 to take to the skies and educate people about World War II. One is at the service station along the pike, the other one roughly 2 miles down the road. We've seen people all morning walking the perimeter of the casino trying to find a door that's open. There's a whole section for seating, but for the most part, we're told the general supporters are going to be standing here in this wide open space to jump around, stand up, sit down for when Bernie Sanders takes the stage. Telling me the suspected drug activity around 23 Dale was the street's worst kept secret. She said they simply walked out as if they hadn't just stuck a gun in her face. What you see out there has actually recessed from what we saw when we were here earlier. You can actually see this line where the pavement is dry. They've heard reports of the foxes running up to people and even vehicles, which they say is atypical fox behavior. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has now been subpoenaed in the impeachment investigation of President Trump. A local boy now called a hero for saving his big sister when she was choking. That letter saying that the building owner has 30 days to fix these fallen bricks. What that means for the tenants is that the potentially 30 days that they could be out on the streets. Now, the building owner was on the premises today, and there was a tense confrontation by the tenants, something that all occurred while Western Mass News cameras were rolling. Sir, it would only take a moment. Can I ask one question?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Western Mass News trying to ask Lucian Hronowski, the building owner of 145 Essex Street, questions about the roof that partially collapsed Sunday. Wednesday morning, the families who had been evacuated from the building no longer had shelter at a local hotel. 20 families came back to Essex Street to try to get medicine, food, and pets out of the condemned building as they crammed full bags in their cars. The tenants told Western Mass News they've struggled to get in contact with Hronowski.
He's not answering nobody. He's just like nothing. Like he's not responding to anybody.
Until Hronowski himself came out of the building with his own belongings. Western Mass News was able to ask Hronowski about the building commissioner's summation earlier this week, that improper maintenance of the bricks caused the parapet to fall.
You're assuming it's a lack of maintenance.
No, that was what the building commissioner said.
You know, we've already rebuilt the Walnut side, and we were getting ready to do this side. It just didn't wait for us.
When asked about financial responsibility for helping the tenants,
we've contacted the adjusters and our insurance company.
The residents demanded their first and last month's rent back, along with a security deposit. The tensions boiled over when residents began blocking Hronowski's vehicle. Hronowski himself left the car, and the situation spread down the street. One tenant was taken away in a cruiser.
I believe an assault and battery had occurred that the officer witnessed, and that's why that person was placed under arrest.
Kelly LaRoe, a private advocate, arrived on scene to help the other families secure emergency essentials from the building one last time. One by one, they were escorted into the building by police, and animal control officers arrived to help with pets.
Every single person sitting here is a victim.
The tenants were given emergency evacuation and condemnation letters from the city, which say Hronowski has 30 days to fix the building. That's a month where 20 families will have their lives disrupted.
You have a landlord who is a known slumlord to the city, not just to this building, but he has multiple buildings in this city.
Cause of death listed on his death certificate raised suspicions.
He loved being in the Air Force Reserve.
When Albert Noti became sick with dementia and started losing weight, his family knew they could count on the care he received at the Holyoke Soldiers' Home.
They knew he was going to decline in a matter of months, so it was time to put him into hospice care.
But Albert's sister-in-law, Cindy Noti, says he was acting like his normal self on March 3rd, the last time she ever saw him alive.
He was actually dancing with me.
On March 22nd, Cindy got a call from the home that COVID-19 was discovered on Albert's unit, 1 North.
He had a fever and he was tested.
Cindy says the test results took a while to come back, and in that time, the music-loving active veteran was deteriorating fast.
He stayed in the recliner, wouldn't eat, and drank very little. And he never, ever stayed in bed or in the recliner. Couldn't get him to sit in the recliner.
Cindy says she was told the first patient who tested positive was isolated.
So if you have these other guys that you're testing for COVID, are you isolating them too? And they just kind of went, no, we don't have any place to do that.
And Cindy says veterans from 2 dementia wings were combined into one.
Taking people who weren't sick and putting them in where the people were sick was just, I just don't understand what were you thinking?
And 9 days after Cindy got the call that COVID-19 was on Albert's unit, she got another call. Albert died on March 31st.
When he passed away, I asked again, what were his test results? And they said, no, they're negative. We're going with that. Like, basically, we're not going to retest them. We're not going to question this, even though he was completely symptomatic for COVID for the entire 9 days before he died. So we thought that seemed like more of a cover-up.
Cindy says her concern only grew when she received Albert's death certificate. On it, only one cause of death: dementia.
We thought that perhaps the medical examiner would flag that and question it because dementia isn't a cause of death, but they let it go through.
Because where he had died at the Soldiers Home facility, and with so many cases reported, it does seem a little odd that was a sole cause.
Western Mass News spoke with Michael Usher, the funeral director of Lombard Funeral Home, which handled Albert's arrangements.
We usually ask for dementia with contributing causes. It can't be a sole cause.
Usher says getting a signed death certificate and remains transferred to a funeral home usually happens within 24 hours. In Albert's case with the Soldiers Home, Usher said the process took days.
Very difficult, probably one of the most difficult cases I've had in 30 years of trying to get a cause of death.
Now the state's office of the chief medical examiner has begun sifting back through death certificates issued early on in the COVID-19 pandemic.
They should consider re-examining a death certificate that lists dementia in a patient who had COVID symptoms for the 9 days that he became critically ill.
A quick ending to Albert's life. One, Cindy says, was comfortable in the Holyoke Soldiers Home up until the last 9 days.
He was getting affection and positive reinforcement. Like, they were so good with him.
The objective behind the corn maze at the Austin family farm is simple. Weave your way through the paths, maybe take a wrong turn here or there on your way to the bell, which you can triumphantly ring at the end.
I'm very excited for it and nervous at the same time.
But the Belchertown Maze has something more exciting waiting behind the rows for one local family.
It's been so hard to try to keep a secret.
Staff Sergeant Christine Brown is home on leave after being stationed in Jordan. But her daughters Amelia, Abby, and Audrey don't know that yet.
Okay, we're looking for a bell.
A bell?
A bell. Well, I think that's another clue.
The cones are clues?
I don't know. I think so. Let's go find that bell.
Hey!
Mommy!
Oh.
Mama!
It's amazing. It's been a long time. It's been about 5 months since they've seen their mother.
A surprise organized with help from the Austin family. A group of siblings all too willing to orchestrate the homecoming they never had.
Our oldest brother, Michael, was killed in Vietnam in 1971. So it just, it's a very bittersweet situation for us and really resonates.
Staff Sergeant Brown is home for 10 days before she has to go back. And in that time, they're looking forward to trick-or-treating and just spending time together as a family.
It has been hard. We just try to take it one day at a time.
Daddy kind of set it up.
The Brown family reunited at last in a place where most people get lost.
And wait, the bell!
And that has a nice ring to it. In Belchertown.
Daddy brought her home last night.
Audrey Russo, Western Mass News.